Oh, welcome everyone. We are going to be going live today to meet with one of our past students, Lexie. I cannot wait to share her story with you guys. I am just going to go ahead and look her up here. Living and add her into the conversation. You guys are going to love her. She's incredible. She's done so many amazing things with our coaching program, and I can just not. Last time I was trying to do this last month, we had another student on our live with us, and I kept adding them and adding them and adding them, and it wouldn't add. Oh, there. Yay! Okay, I was so
Nice.
stressed. I don't know if you saw my last live, but it was like 5 minutes of me being like, why isn't it fucking working? Like,
Oh
what's
man,
going on?
technology. Like I was even nervous in the email. I was emailing support and I'm like, how do I do this? I've never done this before. And she's like, it's easy. I'm like, oh, thank God. Okay.
I love
Yeah.
it. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, Lexi, I am so freaking excited to have you here. And I know we've been talking in the DMs and we were talking in the Facebook group and stuff, but even just like getting on the live now and reading over all of your wins and everything has
Yeah.
just, I'm so freaking proud of you. You should be
Oh,
so
thank
proud of
you.
yourself for all of the things that you have done with our program. Like, not only did you come in and learn, but you came in and took massive, massive, massive freaking action.
Yes.
So for those of you who just joined, I know some people are asking what will be discussed in this. We are going live with our past student, Lexi. We like to do these lives every once in a while with our past students. I think it's important to show you guys how other people have been able to win, how other people have been able to change their financial situation. Because I know it's easy to look at me and see me as an outlier and see me as, something that happened, but maybe is not possible for everyone. And I think it's really important to show you guys how what we teach has helped other people, how they've been able to change their lives so that you can get inspired, so that you can start to take action in your own life. So Lexi is just an incredible example of this. She went from not truly understanding how to make her money work for her. She wasn't really sure where to go with her financial situation at the time, and to buying her first investment property and is now on track for early retirement with her stock and real estate investments using the knowledge that she gained in our income multiplier program. So Lexi was able to set up her high yield savings account buckets for all of her short-term goals and consistently contribute to them. She confidently moved all of her investments into a self-managed portfolio. Lexi is managing all of her own investments now. That's amazing. She's excited about payday instead of being stressed about what to do. She has a clear vision on her retirement. She is saving so much money and she is learning to invest in herself, which has allowed her investments to grow so much faster than she's ever seen before. And she's become a confident real estate investor with the help of our property investment lessons and my expert guidance. So Lexi, I love this for you. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about yourself, who you are, where you're from, all that fun stuff.
Sounds good. Yeah. Yeah, my name is Lexi and I'm from Saskatchewan, so Canada. I don't know who's watching from the States and everything like that, but I am only 27 years old and I am a hairstylist actually, and I'm a business owner. Like I have my own studio shop. I'm an entrepreneur, all of those things. And yeah, I've always kind of been pretty good with money. Like growing up, I started working really young. Like I think I don't know, I kind of always joke that like when you're in your early teens, like people either continue and they play sports and do all those things, but I gave that up pretty early on and I started working at like 15 and my first job was making burritos at Taco Time.
I
And it
love
was, yeah, it
it.
was great. And I kind of just like from there really I kind of became addicted to like working and like making money and stuff, which was good at a young age. Like I was very fortunate that I had that mindset young because it did set me up for good success in my early 20s, which was nice. But as time kind of progressed and especially becoming like a business owner, I was saving money and doing all the things. And I had an advisor who was really good with me. We worked well together for a lot of years, but I didn't really know like what I was doing. Like I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Like I'll do this, whatever you say, all those kinds of things. And then as I just got older, I kind of was realizing like, okay, like what am I doing with this money? Like
Yeah.
what am I doing with it? Like I have it, it's sitting here. I'm building businesses, I'm doing these things, but like I don't really know what the purpose of it is. And then that's when it kind of, when your course crossed my mind and I was like, okay, I need to get like a really clear vision on like what I want in my life now, long term, what those things look like. And especially being self-employed, like we don't get a lot of the, perks and benefits and things that employed people do when it comes to like, you know, pension planning, retirement planning, maternity leave planning, things like that. So it all kind of came full circle and allowed me to like really plan my life a little bit better when I came across your program. So
I love that so much. So I want to dive into a little bit more about what was going on with your financial advisor before you came into the program. I know there are so many people who are doing like what they think they're supposed to be doing, right? Like they go to work and their work has a 401k plan, or they have like an RRSP plan, and they're like, yeah, just like sign up for this. And they don't really know what they're doing. They're like, choose like low risk, medium risk, or high risk. And people don't understand those terms either. And they're like, I don't want to lose any money, so I'm just going to choose low risk or mid risk, not understanding that that's actually the bigger risk is not having the money you need to retire. And instead of actually explaining to you how these things work, a lot of these financial advisors are just like, you know, they're making the same amount of money whether or not you're in the high risk fund or the low risk fund or whatever it is. So they don't want to take the time. They'll just say, okay, go into whatever you want. And you don't even know that maybe you're not setting yourself up in the right way for your specific situation. Like if you are 30 years away from retirement and you're in a low or mid risk fund, like that's not good. And then on the flip side of, were you too? Okay. And then on the flip
like
side
that,
of that,
yeah.
a lot of people, especially in Canada, their financial advisors are pushing them into high price mutual funds. So now you have a, you know, a conservative fund where maybe you can expect an annual growth rate of say like 4%, but then you're paying 2.5% in fees. So maybe you're making like 1.5% on that. You would have been better off putting that money into a freaking high yield savings account than you were investing it. And a lot of people don't realize this. And then they're going to go 10, 20, 30 years and then go, oh shit, I don't have the money that I needed to retire. But if I had actually optimized what I was doing, I would have been set. And the thing with investing is you can't go back in time. Like we can't get that time back. So let's talk more about, you know, maybe some of the realizations that you had and what was going on with your own investments before you took the program and really had a more comprehensive understanding of how to invest.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so yeah, first I just want to say bless her soul. She's a wonderful person. So I really do like her as a person. She's a great lady. But yeah, I think I started with her when I was, what am I, 27? So I don't know, in my early 20s.
Yeah.
And yeah, like was just connected through somebody, got her name, and I was like, okay, great. And kind of like I think the usual appointment, like they sit down, they say, if you invest this much, and they show you like the scale by this age, you'll have like whatever, $1 bajillion. And I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. But I was young and scared. So of course, then yeah, they're like, what's your most comfortable profile? I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't want to lose any money. Like, so of course you go into like the lowest risk one or medium risk. I don't even remember what it was, but yeah, and it was a lot of just like mutual funds and things like that. And she was managing it for me, and that was fine. But I really did not understand what was going on behind the scenes with it. Like I didn't know. So for a lot of years, I just had like a TFSA, and it wasn't until I became self-employed when I started opening up like RSPs and things like that to start contributing more heavily to that. But I didn't even know that like thing like a TFSA or an RSP would be set for like long-term retirement, right? Like I didn't even know that that's what it was for. So I would put money into it, and then if I wanted to go on a vacation, I was like withdrawing, like I need money, I'm gonna pull it out of here. And it was just so like willy-nilly, and I didn't realize how much that was affecting it, withdrawing my investments like that in such short-term periods. So anyways, before I joined the income multiplier course, just from like your free trainings, the free trainings, I ended up taking, I can't remember what it was, but I printed off something and I punched in like a calculator, like a fee calculator. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. Like I could hit my goal so much faster if I just learned to do this by myself, and didn't have to give away as much in fees to the investment manager, whichever. So that was really the biggest thing that like enticed me. Was I was like, I need to get my investments figured out. I have the money sitting there, but like I need to get them working harder and doing things and really like setting this up properly. So yeah, then when I really dove into learning, like that was the biggest part of the course that I was really excited for, was like the investment part of it. And when I really dove in to figure out how to do it myself, it was really scary. Like it was scary for me to have to have that conversation, to like break that break that relationship, but it went really well. And
Good.
she was actually really proud of me that
I
I
was
like
gonna
learned to do this.
say, I think I remember
Yeah,
your
yeah,
message after you talked to her being like, she was actually like, good for you. Like,
yeah,
good for you for taking this over
totally. She was
yourself.
like, you're so smart, like good for you. And I was like, okay. And I think just like even overcoming those hurdles, like it really just instills like that much more confidence within yourself that like you really do have
Mhm.
to advocate for yourself in this world in a lot of areas. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And then going through all the notes that you had and learning about different ways you can invest and how do you want to do this and how do you want to diversify and ETFs and things like that. I was really able to pick what I wanted to do, set it up pretty easy, and like Wealth Simple has been a dream. And now I just get to like freely share this with like my friends and stuff too. I'm like, you
Yeah.
guys, you need to do this. Like, oh my God. So
Right?
yeah,
It's like you have this secret. It's like, how this is so fucking crazy. How does not like how are we not taught this in school? How does everybody
yeah,
not know about this? Like I didn't know
no,
anything about I thought investing was like when I was younger, just like what you see on TV, like these angry dudes running around the stock
yeah,
exchange and people
totally.
just losing money and you only invest if you're like really, really rich or something. Like I didn't understand that like investing is not for the rich, it's how you get rich, but it's not only how you get rich, it's literally the only way that you're going to create long-term financial safety or security for yourself. Because if you don't invest, if you don't have a pension, and most of us are not retiring into something like that, like you're not going to be able to stop working.
No.
You don't just get to stop working at 65. You stop working when you have enough money invested to provide you with that passive income to cover what you would have made working. And I think it's so crazy to me that we don't like drill this into people's heads even more. And I know people will be like, oh, well, I learned about compound interest in school, da da da. Not in the way that it should be, even if they did teach you about the concept of compound interest, because I think even like when you said the fee thing, or like you're looking at your projections for what your investments can grow to, our brains, especially if you grew up like lower middle class, like I grew up broke, like my brain could not comprehend just how much money a small amount of money could turn into over time,
Yeah,
right? And it's just like it's so crazy that time is your most valuable asset, and that's why it's so important that you start young, because the longer you wait, the harder you're going to have to work, the more money you're going to have to put in. But if you start young, like even $50 a month can turn into hundreds of thousands of dollars in free money. Like it's insane. And then when we look at the fees on top of that, you see the fees and people are like, oh, well, it's only 1% or it's only 2% or it's only 2.5%. Is the program applicable in the US? Yes. I would say actually it's interesting because I'm in Canada. The majority of our students are actually from the US. I'd probably say about 70 to 80%. So our program is applicable for the US and Canada. We have had worldwide students in it, but I would say majority of it being applicable for US and Canada. Sorry, what was I saying? Oh, when we're looking at the fees. So just as compound interest can compound and make you rich, right? Build that small amount of wealth into a big amount of wealth. The same thing can happen with those fees. So when you go and do that fee calculator, it seems like it's not even real life. You do it and you're like, what, this is going to cost me $300,000 over my lifetime? Or I even saw it like $700,000 over my lifetime, because they get paid as a percentage of what you have invested, not a percentage of the profits, which a lot of people think. They think, okay, well, if I make 10% this year, they take it off that. No, they take it off whether or not you make money. And they are taking that as your portfolio grows. So in the beginning, maybe you're like, oh, well, it's only $10 or whatever. But when your portfolio inevitably grows over the years, the amount of money that they're getting paid each year to do something that you could easily do yourself in a couple of hours a year, right, is just astronomical. So, and again, and I know you said, my financial advisor was a really great person. This is not saying that they're not great people. I'm sure that there are a ton of amazing financial advisors. It doesn't mean though that they're not, especially if you go to one with a bank, that they're not putting the bank's interest first, because the bank is paying their paycheck. They have to
totally.
put, and the bank puts profits over people, right? Their intention is to make the most amount of money possible for the bank. If you make money along the way by proxy, whatever. But I think even if you're going to use a financial advisor, you still need to understand how to invest, because if you don't, again, that time will pass, and that time is something that you can never get back, right? And I know this happened to my parents as well. My dad was really sick. He wasn't able to go back to work. He had cancer. There were some mental health problems. He wasn't able to go back to work. And so he got like a payout from his pension or whatever it is. And if they had have invested that money when they received it, it would have grown to, $500,000 by now. They would have had a nice sizable chunk for their retirement. But instead they went to the bank because they didn't know anything about money or investing. And this was like 20 years ago. I was like 13 years old. I didn't know anything about this either. And they go to the bank and the bank is like, oh, well, like you don't want to lose any money, just put it in a GIC. If you're in the US watching this, a similar investment would be a CD. If we look historically, GICs or certificates of deposit, like they barely keep up with inflation. Maybe they were getting like a 1.5% rate and they locked this money in for all of these years where the stock market's gone up, but like literally it could have turned into over $500,000 using real returns. And now it's the same amount basically that it was when they put it in. So it's sad because they can't go back and they can't change that situation. So the biggest thing that you can do to safeguard your investments and plan for your future and ensure that you are in a good spot in the future is just take the time to learn, right? Take the time to learn so that you can sit at the table and have the conversation. Imagine it like you go in and you bring your car into the mechanic and the mechanic's like, oh, like you don't know anything about cars. The mechanic's like, oh, you're going to need this and this and this and this, and it's going to be all this money. You would call someone, right?
Yeah,
You would call someone that knows about cars. You'd do some research first. You'd make sure that you're not getting screwed. But then we're not doing that when it comes to our money. And it's literally the rest of our lives that we're playing with. It's crazy.
Totally. And I think it's like really sad how money is such a taboo topic for so many people. And I wish more people would just like speak openly about it, because even myself, like, so I was like, you don't want to talk about like your financial situation. No, no, no. But like that's how we learn, right? And it's
Exactly.
frustrating that like you can't always trust the big banks and all those things, because obviously they're going to do what's in their best interest. So like taking something like this and then being able to share the information like with your peers and talk to people, like it's extremely, extremely important and helpful. And I definitely encourage people to like talk about that more, right?
Yes, but again, because people don't know what they
No.
don't know. And again, time is your most valuable asset. Like, I think it's so important. And that's why I'm just always harping the same shit on here. But it's like, guys, you need to understand that this is so important. It's your entire future you're playing with. And I know there'll be people that are like, oh, well, like, I just want to live for today. And like, tomorrow is tomorrow's problem. It's like, but when you kick the can down the road, you're not preventing yourself from having to deal with that issue. You're actually just making it a bigger issue for the you of tomorrow. And how many times have you said to yourself, oh, if I had only done X, Y, Z, I'd be in a better position today. Or, oh, if I had only known, then what I know now, I'd be so much further ahead. But that's going to be you again in 5, 10, 15 years looking back going, holy fuck, I wish I did this. Like, I'm going to bet the biggest regret that a lot of your parents have is that they didn't invest and that they didn't plan for their retirement and that they on some level just expected it to happen. Even if they didn't expect it to happen, they did because they didn't take action on any of the things that would have made it possible for them.
Totally. Yeah. And it's just super sad. So it's nice to know now that it's like, okay, that there are programs like this available, that you do have the resources and you can learn, and it's not as hard as people think. Like truly, I'm just a regular person. Like I'm nobody special. And like I figured it out. And I mean, there's always going to be questions and things along the way, but like there's so many resources available to get the answers to those questions, right? And it's just so important that you learn it. Truly.
Yeah.
Like it's like anything, it's like riding a bike. Anything new is hard, but like once and like you roll with it, right? So
It is, and when you say it's simple, like I don't think people understand. When I say if you can learn to drive a car, you can learn to invest. 100%, 100%. Like if you can learn to drive a car, if you have the dedication for like the program that you took was 4 months. We have another program that's 3 months long. We also have a self-study investing program. Obviously, I think the ones with me are the best because I get to help you right
yes,
into your
very much
finances. You
so.
get to interact. We get to talk about, and not only just like investing, but we get to talk about money mindset. We get to talk about real estate and real estate investment trusts and mortgage investment corporations and side hustles and, what to do when you're feeling stuck and paying off your debt, like all of these things. We get to talk about all of that. And then you get to have the community as well, right? Because I think, when you were saying a lot of people see money as a taboo topic and they don't talk about money, I think that that's the cause of pain and stress for a lot of people is they're looking around, they're looking at their peers, they're looking at their coworkers, their neighbors, whatever, and they're like, what am I doing wrong?
Mm-hmm.
How is everybody else buying a new car or going on vacation or doing this or whatever? And I feel like I can't do that too. Like, what the fuck am I doing wrong? Not understanding what different people's financial situations look like. And instead of comparing themselves to everybody else, just knowing that they should be, running their net worth and comparing their net worth over time, like making sure that that number is growing, understanding that when you're younger, that number is typically going to be smaller. When you're really young, you just get out of school, that number is probably going to be negative, but that's nothing to be shameful about, right? And you did the best you could with the information you had at the time. And the only thing that we want to see is that it's growing every year, that you're making that positive progress. And I think the more that we talk about this, the more that we're able to break down those stigmas and the more we're able to help people actually take the steps that they need to start building their dream life, because ignoring all of this again is not going to change it. We don't want to take the hope, wish, and pray approach. We want to get real with our goals. We want to understand our why. And we need to also understand that like spending money is not the enemy. And I think a lot of people, when they see like financial literacy programs, they assume that the person's going to come in and be like, you're never allowed to buy anything ever again. But that's not what I'm about. I want you to buy things. I want you to buy things that make you happy. The problem is when people buy things that they think are making them happy, but are actually just bringing them further away from their true goals. And they have this, whatever, this money mindset or these money beliefs that are keeping them from actually achieving the life that we want. But that's why, our programs take a holistic view and a holistic approach to money management. So not only do we teach you how to invest, how to pay off debt, the right accounts to use, all of that stuff, but we also teach you, we have a therapist on staff that does a once monthly mindset mastermind, because as you're going through and you're like, oh, fuck, I can't do this, or oh my God, it's too hard, or oh, I ran into this obstacle. Like, how do we work through those limiting beliefs that are keeping you stuck so that you can actually do the things that you're learning and do it in a good way?
Totally. Yeah. And the mindset thing is a big one. Like, even for me, even like coming in, it's like you think, oh no, like I'm good with money. I have a pretty good mindset, but there's always going to be something, right, that you can't get past, and how to like change that and rewire that. And even when you go back to like, just talking about, spending isn't the enemy, it's like aligned spending. Like, I really love that perspective in the program because it's true. Like, I mean, just exactly, like you can't live your life and not spend money and not buy things, but it's really like getting clear and aligned with like, okay, but what makes the most sense in my life? Like, does that feel,
Exactly.
is that a good purchase, is that a bad purchase? Like, just things like that that are just, that really do just change the game for you, and then you don't feel also as awful about things either, because you don't want to be so limited that then all of a sudden you're like in a place and you just make crazy transactions, right? So there's, the mindset portion was amazing as well. I will say that. I love that.
I love that. It's funny because a lot of people come in and they're like, no, I don't like need the mindset stuff. I don't need to know anything about that. Like, I'm good. I just want to know like how to increase my credit score, how to invest, like what investments to buy. And then they get through the mindset stuff and they're like, my whole life just changed. I didn't even realize that, all of these different things were holding me back, because people will get into situations where, they have debt and it's like this vicious cycle and they don't understand, because technically they have the money to pay it off, but they keep going back into debt. And like, why is this happening? Right. And it could be something like, you're not planning for emergencies. You don't have an emergency fund, or it could be, you just had a baby and you're not happy with your postpartum body and you keep buying clothes in an attempt to feel better about yourself. Because you're not happy with where you are. Or it could be, every time you get stressed, you go and you're searching for that dopamine. So you're buying something to try to overcome that feeling of overwhelm. Or maybe you grew up in scarcity. You grew up in a family that didn't have a lot of money. So now when you get money, unconsciously, you're like, holy fuck, I need to spend this because I don't know when I'll get this money again, right? There are so many reasons. And that's why I say, like, if you think that you're like bad with money, no, you're not. And it's also not a numbers thing. You don't need to be good at math to be good with money. 80% of being good with money is mindset and behavior. And then once you have that foundational piece, once you know how to do the things that you're going to learn, then you can actually implement everything. And this is how it gets to be really simple. Like, I know I had my like quarter life crisis when I was 25 years old, where it's like, who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing? Like, what is the point of any of this? Um, and when I was trying to get ahead with money and I kept learning all the tactic and I kept budgeting like really, really hard. And I'm like, why will I do well for like 2 months and then I will fall right back into the same shit? But it was because I didn't look at the psychology behind why I was doing what I was doing, because there's a difference between knowing and doing, obviously.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely there is. Yeah.
I love that. Okay. Can you share a few main takeaways from the program that helped you get to where you are today?
Main takeaways help me get to where I am. Well, like I
I'm
said,
gonna put you on the spot
that's
like that. You're
okay.
like,
Yeah.
oh,
No, I mean, obviously, like the mindset thing, like I said, like that was one of the biggest ones. Like just when I thought that I had a good mindset about things, and I was like, nope, I'm good. Like truly, really getting into a more clear mindset around money and just like changing your beliefs around it and restructuring how I think about money. That
damn.
was a big game changer because it even is applied on just like how I look at every single transaction, just everything. Like it just changed my outlook on a lot of things. So that was a really big takeaway. um the other thing is like like really learning and building the confidence to like ask questions and advocate for yourself. Like I definitely grew up very much so, like my dad always said to me, like there's no stupid question, always feel like to ask a question. But I think everyone's been in those situations where you ask questions and you feel made to feel stupid. Like people sometimes can do that too, and then you get intimidated and you don't want to ask questions. And I just really realized through the program, like you have to, and you have to do it scared, because if you don't, you're not going to find the answers that you're looking for. You're not going to get to the place that you want to be if you're not asking those questions and advocating. And yeah, some of them are scary, but like it gets easier. Like it really does. And now I'm
That's
like
the biggest
so
thing.
not afraid to like ask. And you don't have to be rude
I love
about
it.
it, but it's just even
Exactly.
just asking for clarification on things, like, and not just rolling over and be like, okay, yeah, like whatever. It's like, no, like, please explain, please break this down. That has provided, yeah, like a lot of confidence in me with things like that.
I love that.
And yeah, I'm just trying to think. Those are the two I can think of off the top of my head.
Like the
So
two
we'll
biggest
go with
things.
those.
Yeah. I love that. We did have one comment that came through from somebody who asked, how long did it take for you to start seeing results in the program?
To start seeing results. Okay, well, to be honest, right off the bat, I like wasn't like super dedicated. I like took just a month. It took me a month to really get in, and I
Yeah.
think like in the program we talk about that like analysis paralysis,
Yeah.
and I think that's exactly what happened. It was just like holy shit, this is so much information, and I just kind of like froze, and I was like, I just can't do it, and I kind of went hands off. And then finally I just started. I was like, you know what, no, like you want to learn this, do this, like start interacting. I started like just talking more in the program,
Yeah.
connecting with other people, reading other people's things. And then it was maybe like a month and a half in where I started noticing results for myself, just even like the changes that I was making, the connections I was making, realizing like, hey, somebody else is in similar situations, and then I really, at that point, when I started to feel like that sense of community, is when I actively started making the changes. And right then and there, I mean, that's when I noticed immediately like stuff was changing, things were moving, things were growing, I was growing, all of that. But right off the bat, it was like a little bit like, yep, can't do it. And
It's scary.
then finally I was
It
just
is
like, hey,
100%.
buckle up. Like,
Because
whoa.
know
Yeah.
what, you're confronting this idea too, where you're like, okay, things are going to change. And some people are like all about change. They're like, yes, I'm fucking ready for it. But some people are scared of change, right? That self-sabotage creeps back in, where even when you know what you should do, or even when you know what you want to do, you're not necessarily doing it, right? And I think the problem that we see when it comes to changing our financial situation is even kind of similar to like, someone who stays in a bad job for too long, or someone who stays in a bad relationship for too long. They know that that situation is hurting them, that it's not good for them, but the unknown, the change feels scarier than the pain of staying the same. And only when you recognize that the pain of staying the same is bigger than your fear of change, that's when you'll be able to get over it. And like I said, that's why we have the Mindset Mastermind. That's why we have trainings on mindset. I have literally in our Making Money Moves program, it's our 3-month program, teaches you exactly how I went from $40,000 in debt to millionaire at 30. And we literally have an entire module on self-sabotage, because there are so many times where you know what you're supposed to do, right? Even like watching this now, a lot of you guys, you know what you're supposed to do on some level. You should pay off your debt. You should maybe save more. You should learn how to invest, but maybe you're not doing it. So why are we not doing it? Why are we self-sabotaging? Why are we getting in our own way? Why are we becoming the thing that's preventing us from having the success that we want in life? And then how do we overcome that? What strategies can we use to overcome that so that when we teach you the $1 million tactic, like how to invest and the best investments to make and that kind of thing, that it becomes simple for you to implement in your life? And I think what I have seen with our students, of the people who show up and they're engaged and they're active, it's about 30 to 60 days for them to start seeing, like, some people come in and they're 2 weeks in, they're like, holy fuck. One of my favorite wins, actually, I don't know if you saw this, if you were still in the group at the time, but we had a student and she was like, I always used to call my mom and ask her for money. She's like, and I didn't even realize like how well I was doing in the program. My mom called me to see if I was okay because it had been 3 weeks and I never called her to ask her for money. And she's like, hey, are you all right? And she posted another one. Her wins are hilarious. I love them. The other one was her dad was coming over and he was like helping her with her garbage or something. He was going to take her garbage out. And he's like, why do you have so much less garbage than usual? Like, am I missing something? And she's like, it's because I wasn't online shopping. I didn't have all of these boxes and all of these things from like Amazon and whatever to throw away, that her parents are even noticing it. She's like, oh my God, like this is just a couple weeks into the program. I love that so much.
I know. That is amazing. Like I just love to hear that stuff. It's so good for other people. Like that's awesome.
It's fun. I think some of my favorite wins too, like I love the wins where people are like, okay, I'm on track to becoming, financially free. I'm going to be, retiring early. Like you're doing all of these amazing things. But some of my favorite ones too are like, I'm sleeping better. My relationships are better. I lost weight because I'm less stressed, because people don't realize that like when you're not doing well with your financial situation, your window of tolerance, the ability that you have to deal with other things becomes so much smaller, right? So some things that maybe are not a big deal end up becoming like the end of the fucking world because you just can't handle it because you are so focused and so stressed out about these other things. But when you're able to resolve that other stuff, all of these other areas of your life that you didn't even realize were interconnected get to become better too. So I love that. I'm obsessed with all of your wins, Lexie, and I appreciate you here joining me and coming on this and sharing your story with everyone. So thank you so much. Any final words for everyone?
No, I don't think so. Aside from if you're thinking about taking the course, do it, because like I said, it's like you have an excellent course and I really wish if everybody in this world could take it, like they absolutely should, because it helps so many people. So thank you for everything. It's been like the best.
I love it. Thank you so much, Lexie. I hope you guys all have a beautiful day. Thank you for joining us. Bye, everyone.
Bye.